Morning.
Well, very good morning. So, for those of you that don't know, Jason, just take a quick second to tell us all your position over there at BCD and what you're doing.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. My name's Jason Glover. Obviously, I'm the Vice President of Sales here over at BCD. Along with trying to get our group focused from a sales perspective, I've been involved in some of the new product offering that we have coming out here, and obviously very excited today about this whole REVOLV platform. Unfortunately, I had to talk after David, which after seeing his presentation is basically me getting the mop and the bucket and cleaning everything up. So that was pretty good, David. And then, of course, our CEO got to put out a great keynote opening there for us, too. So, Scott, a couple of points, I guess, from a REVOLV standpoint. We're exceptionally excited about this HCI, this hyperconverged, this hybrid hyperconverged market, and what's there from a revenue perspective across the entire industry. We continue on a daily basis and sometimes multiple times a day to get questions about, how can I migrate what I've been doing and my deployments into this quote unquote weird space of virtualization. And as we've all talked internally at BCD and with other people involved from a partner perspective, we continue to find just fascinating things about pushing more and more of this environment into a virtualized scene from a hyperconverged standpoint. So, hey, Scott, do you have that slide you can throw up for me, if you don't mind, real quick?
And while I'm heading over to do that, let me ask you to address something for us. I appreciate everyone who's come in to attend. Obviously, they came here, only to see Jeff, of course.
Of course.
Tell us why REVOLV, why HCI, why now? You've been across our industry, whether it's been in a VMS space or more of a camera-centric space. Why HCI? Why now? And what is REVOLV as relates to that push by you and by BCD to move into this world of HCI style platforms?
Great question, Scott. I'm sure you had that written down somewhere, but regardless, so from a REVOLV standpoint, I think it's important. I'm sure you're going to cover this later on when we go through the product a little bit deeper, but it's the revolutionizing of enabled virtual optimized low latency video. And really what that all encompasses is bringing a lot of these different parts and pieces from a role-based perspective that David talked about earlier, and bringing that into a virtualized environment, and obviously utilizing our partners. So I wanted to make sure that before we got too much farther, that we do explain to everybody that our technical partners, along with obviously the VMS perspective that we're actually running on these on our REVOLV platform, that the Dell and VMware have been a major component as far as proliferating our design and being able to get us to the types of bandwidth and bit rates that we've been shooting at. And I'll leave that for people later. Scott, if you want to kill that, we're good there. I just want to make sure everybody understood that we are who our partners are in this environment, and we're very happy about bringing that to the forefront.
Thank you.
So I think the other thing too that I want to touch on, Scott, real quick is kind of the flavor of what REVOLV is. There's three main categories of the REVOLV platform. So we have kind of what we articulate as the Deep Store Lite, Deep Store, and then the Deep Store Plus. Scott is going to go into some of this later after some of our guests are here. But just to give you kind of a snapshot of what we're doing is the Deep Store Lite is kind of our entrance level into the HCI, allowing up to 3 nodes. The Deep Store itself, which is kind of where we think most of the hybrid hyperconverged market is at right now. And then, of course, the full redundancy side of things, which is the Deep Store Plus. And again, I won't take your thunder, Scott. I know you're going to talk a lot about some of the product and some of the architecture and design later. So I'll give it back to you. I know you have some other questions you want to get into.
Well, absolutely. Why do you see HCI as now becoming ever more important to the security industry as a whole? I mean, haven't we always been told it's just an IT product being, spoon or force fed into security?
Yeah, I think that a couple of things there, that the software architecture itself and the efficiency of the VMSs today have completely changed the go-to-market strategy from a IT to a security standpoint. And what's happening is, as we continue to put layer upon layer, or rack upon rack upon rack of different machines, whether it was access control and video and nurse call and all these other things, the evolution of VM and virtualization itself lends itself to be able to stack all of those in one environment. And with the stacking of that, the high availability that comes with VMware, it completely changes the way that the security market is looking at it. And I mean, part of our tagline, I mean, is pretty profound when you think about it. Security becomes IT ready. I mean, that to me is a prolific statement. If you go back, and there's probably a lot of people on the line that remember the days of matrix switches and old Schlage systems and all of these literally dinosaur closets just to run an access control system, or just to run a few hundred cameras. Well, those are done on one server now, and you can stack multiple roles, multiple systems inside of that server. So I think, number one, the technology has pushed us that way, and I think the efficiency in which the VMS space has completely changed how we perceive the VM world.
Why BCD, Jason? Why BCD now?
Well, you guys heard Jeff speak. Who doesn't want to work for that guy? I mean, let's be honest. It's funny, Scott, because when that opportunity came up, I got to meet a lot of the people behind the scenes at BCD that I just honestly I didn't really know. The professor, aka Eugene, who handles all of our technical stuff on the backside of the office there in the shop. Darren Giacomini. There's a group in a technology group there that had this kind of core fundamental, and they have an incredible work ethic with regards to how they manage their partnerships and how they manage those teams. When I interviewed with Jeff and talked to Jeff, there was an opportunity to do more. And Jeff kind of had an idea of, hey, what else can we do? And there was an opportunity for me to join and to bring in some other talent there that completely changed the path that we went down. And I was just ecstatic to be a part of that. And that path has opened up REVOLV with this whole team concept of, whether it was you or Eugene or Darren, Maureen, everybody having input on this, or whether it was the software side, the harmonized side. So bringing in that very prolific type of Genetech background from a software deployment standpoint, and also from a software integration standpoint, that was why BCD, Scott. There was an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to really be part of something special.
We're going to ask Larry Newman from Axis, who's our 12 o'clock guest, the same question that I'm now going to pose to you, which is, although I really don't know what day it is or what time it is, I do think we are in 2020. So here's my question. Where is our industry as a whole, and where is BCD specifically going to be in 2025?
2025, interesting. I would have to say that I'll be surprised if we continue to have just the small appliance business the way that we know it. I think that a lot of that small appliance business that we do day in and day out, I think is going to become a hybrid. I think you're going to have multiple roles and multiple entities and multiple things running on just those appliances. And I think you're going to have even more interaction or proliferation with the cloud. We all talk about it every day. Even the newer entities into that market, and even the Genetech Stratocast and some of the things that they've done from a cloud perspective, they're starting to see that kind of hybrid approach is becoming more obtainable from a video perspective. Video still creates a ton of data. I think you're going to see 8K cameras, heck, who knows, 16K cameras. Obviously, to steal Pierre's line, he's always talking about Moore's law and how everything just doubles itself every year. So I think I saw an announcement this morning, Scott, about an 8K camera that's being released. So at what point do they start to figure out the different compression algorithms? That'll be interesting to hear Larry talk about. Is as non-technical as he is, he's really in tune with the market. It'll be interesting to talk about what their future is with, whether it's Axis Zipstream or whether it's some other codec or something else. I'd love to know what he thinks from that perspective.
When we have him on, I'll be sure to let him know you said he was non-technical.
I appreciate that. He's the first one to admit that, by the way.
And as a last note, and before I ask, I'm going to let everyone know that right after Jason is done, we're going to go directly into the product overview, which will then take us into hearing from our own Director of Strategic Alliances, Maureen Carlo, and then from them into Larry Newman. Jason, why are we going to be successful with REVOLV when other HCI providers have tried to come in this space and failed?
I think our approach, number one, and I'll recap the approach in a second, but I think also when you look at the way that we are bringing people from different parts of the industry together. So you take, for example, Darren's team from a deployment services standpoint and a networking standpoint. Then you take Eugene's group from a build standpoint. And then you take Josh's group from a Genetech background standpoint, and Alberto, and all these other guys, this talent that we've brought together. So number one, I think it's the people that we have on board that really are going to push that effort and make us successful. The second one is the partnerships. We go back to the slide that I put up a second ago. I think when you base your model and your infrastructure off of two of the most prolific builders of whether it be hardware or whether it be virtualization from the VMware standpoint, it puts us in a completely different category. And if we can take that and we can add our own harmonized platform into that, I think what you're going to see, not just with version 1.0 that we have available now, but where we're heading with it, and David Gray actually touched on it earlier about having more of that information made available through Security Center. We have some pretty big plans for where this is headed, and we always kind of talk about this whole single pane of glass inside of Security Center, and Security Center lends itself to an incredible architecture with regards to bringing more and more information inside of Security Center, and that can be health monitoring, disk speed, temperature, CPU, fans. That's a great place to start. But we want to take it further. David talked about, spinning up an archiver during a failover process, or maybe you have a virtual machine that has some type of critical failure. We want to be able to manage all of that inside of Security Center. And I think that in itself, Scott, shows us where we're going and why we're going to be successful versus what other people have tried to do.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I will invite you to stick around or jump off as you see fit. You, of course, being the busy man you are.
See you, Scott. Thanks, bud.